Joe, thanks for meeting with us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
We're here at the Ron Paul Institute for Peace, and you were one of the keynote speakers today talking about war being back on the menu. And you're kind of in high demand right now, obviously, because of your principled stance. And I want to just talk to you a little bit about your personal red line. At what point did President Trump, in the war with Iran, cross your red line and made you decide, I have to stand up publicly and say something?
I would say when we got into this second iteration, I was hoping that we'd be able to influence him from the inside to do something like we did with McKnight Hammer and just kind of walk it back and get back on a more pragmatic footing. But when I saw the casualties starting to come in, that for me was like, this is going to keep going, and I can't be a part of this. I need to speak out to hopefully prevent more casualties from continuing to come in and to stop the bleeding, essentially.
So when Americans were dying, that's when the red line was. So you have all the inside intelligence. You got to see it all. Stuff that most of us will never get to see. And I wouldn't ask you to violate that at all. But obviously, after assessing all the intelligence, all the reports, all the data, every single intelligence agency in America came back with the same assessment, that there's no threat. What is it? We know the Netanyahu influence, but what was it you think that influenced President Trump, who campaigned on not starting any new wars, specifically in Iran? What do you think it was that pushed him over the edge?
I think it was a combination of things, but overall, it was just the amount of influence that the Israeli lobby, the Israeli senior government officials, the Israeli pro-Israel people in the media that created that echo chamber around President Trump. It's just the level of, I'd say, Israeli influence within our government. It's something that I didn't understand until I was actually in it. That's something that's just major that we have to get out of our political system.
It's interesting the way you describe the echo chamber, that Netanyahu whispers it, right, and it becomes policy through the Mark Levins and the Sean Hannity, the Fox News, and all the surrogates. And once they say it enough, it just becomes American policy.
Yeah.
And there's no one there pushing back against that. You pushed back against it. Tulsi, I thought, did a really good job of staying nuanced in her testimony when she said, we all agree and it's the president's decision. I thought she did a good job of keeping her integrity intact as best she could. Obviously, we'd like to see a more public display of opposition, but I think she's doing what she can to stay inside. And so that's why I think it was so important for you to step out in the way you did it and publicly do it and stick to your principles. You've taken a very nuanced approach. Instead of criticizing the man, you've criticized the decision. And whenever he does something right, you offer him the off-ramp. Mr. President, take the off-ramp. Here it is. Let me point it out for you. And you've come up with what you call the third option. Could you just describe that just a little bit to us?
Yeah, so I mean, we're at a juncture right now. We have a ceasefire, which is a good thing. But basically, we have two options: continue the ceasefire, get a formal peace agreement, which is why we keep seeing different government officials going to Pakistan to meet with the Iranians to try and get something formal. And that hasn't borne a lot of fruit because I think we're at an impasse over the enrichment issue and a couple other ones. And then there's the other option of going back to war. And I think the president has a third option that he is uniquely postured to kind of execute. And it's basically just the 1984 Reagan option, like leave right now and take off. Like, we could still put some sanctions on Iran that could serve as a soft blockade. It also gives you some trade space that wouldn't be a formal deal. It would prevent us actually having to have a formal deal. The Iranians want sanctions relief. There's certain things we want them to do, like we want the Straits of Hormuz back open up again. So we could use that as a leverage, but I think just taking our troops and our forces out of the area and saying, you know what, we're not going back to conflict. We also deprive the Iranians of the ability of targeting our troops and ending the ceasefire as well, because a dangerous situation we're in right now is that, unfortunately, we killed a lot of the moderates inside of Iran. And so we've kind of we've become a self-fulfilling prophecy in saying how dangerous the Iranians are, because now they are. I mean, now they're pretty emboldened. They are still observing the ceasefire, so there still is some pragmatism there. But what I think President Trump can do is he can say what he's been saying consistently. I've already won. He can list off all the different accomplishments he has. I already bombed all this stuff. They don't have a Navy anymore. They have an Army. We killed other leaders. And come home. Like, we can all throw him a parade. We can say it's over. He can say he won. And we avoid sliding deeper into the war.
Right. It's that escalation risk that we're talked about, and you've talked about this in some of your other interviews, the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Right. That because we've invested so much right now, we've cost 13 American lives, or maybe more. We don't know. Hundreds of injuries. We can't leave now because we need to have complete annihilation, complete victory. But when President Trump calls for an unconditional surrender, that means something, right? That's not an arbitrary phrase.
Yeah.
What does an unconditional surrender mean, and why is that kind of unrealistic for America to demand such a thing.
Yeah, when Trump said it, I don't think he necessarily meant like unconventional surrender in the terms of World War II, because
Right.
that's like the only frame of reference we have is we dropped 2 nuclear weapons on Japan, they unconditionally surrendered. We fought a brutal land war, against Germany in World War II, and they did unconditional surrender because we killed their leaders, et cetera. I just don't think that's possible in Iran. Iran's huge. Even if we wanted to throw the full weight of our military and even had some kind of a coalition, we don't have enough ground troops to do that. I mean, a nuclear weapon would be catastrophic and incredibly immoral. So it's like when you use those terms, you don't give yourself a lot of space.
Right.
And I think Trump is very good at giving himself space. So I think he's already done enough with the narrative, the control of the narrative, to give himself that third option where he can say, "Hey, I won. We're done, and we can just leave." Because again, the more you look at it from a military perspective, there's no good options there.
I see you just did it again. You're so talented at this, at not criticizing the man, right? And painting the options and showing how the best option would be to leave, and that's a victory for you, sir. And if he were to say, stay and carry out the war, bomb, continue attacking, destroy more infrastructure, control the Straits of Hormuz, all the things, and then leave, it's even worse, right?
Yeah.
Because we'd be in the same position, and now we've caused additional damage.
Yeah.
What's interesting, attacking the policy, attacking the decision, presenting the off-ramp, it's landed you in a place where you're a target now. And President Trump's come after you personally. His surrogates, Mark Levin, have come after you personally. And part of it's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you see, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was here today also, and she's had a very public personal attack in a fight with the president. And the response to her has been exactly the same thing. Personal attacks on her character, personal attacks on your character. That's got to feel a little bit traitorous, to use his words, right? That you supported him, you're offering him opportunities, you're offering him your counsel, and to come after you personally and question your personal life and things that you've done in your life, that's got to hurt just a little bit without putting yourself in a corner. Anything high level you like to talk about on that level?
I just kind of ignore it. I mean, at the end of the day, like I voted for him because I liked his policies.
Right.
Like I was never on the illusion that we were like going to be best friends or anything.
He's not our clergy leader.
No, exactly. And I honestly think that he's in a bad position right now. He knows he's in a bad position, and so with him, I see a lot of what you see with someone who has a different problem. They're really mad at the people who point out the problem.
Right.
And so if you're pointing out the problem, they're going to lash out and attack you. But I personally do really like President Trump. I like the things that he's done for our country. And so I would like to say to him, like as a supporter, like, hey, I truly believe in your message, in your mission. You did do amazing things for the country. Like, come back. 77 million of us do still support you. Like, you can walk this back. We want to help you.
That's right. And those of us that I would say I'm barely over this threshold, but those that are under 50, that are of the anti-war generation, veterans of the global war on terror, we want him to be the man that he campaigned on. We do.
Yeah.
Something that's near and dear to my heart, obviously the National Guard. As of today, 18 states, your state, Washington, my state, Idaho, are participating in the war in Iran. 18 states, National Guards. Most of them are air refueling assets. Arkansas sent the Green Berets, I think, out of the 19th group. Is that right? 19th group?
Sounds right, yeah.
So they're sending not just National Guard staff officers they're sending people that are participating in the conflict. Pilots from Idaho flying their A-10s participating in the rescue operation of the weapons safety officer that was shot down. You've supported Defend the Guard in the past. You endorsed it early in your campaign.
Yeah.
Would starving the war machine of the bodies of the National Guard be a legitimate way to stop this overreaching federal bloodlust?
It'd be huge. I mean, because like the dirty secret of the war on terror, but really a lot of our enduring overseas deployments is we need the Guard to actually do those. When I was over in Syria as the National Counterterrorism Center director, I visited with the Iowa National Guard. They were running most of the operations inside of Syria. They were the ones who lost those 3 to the Al-Qaeda insider attack. So the U.S. military would be in a very bad way if they couldn't immediately grab National Guard guys to fill in all these different gaps and capabilities. So I think the states grabbing control of that, it gives us more power as the American people.
So that's Marjorie talked about that in her speech today, that she supports states' rights and the state's ability to interfere with federal overreach. And you talked about Iowa National Guard. They had, I think, 3 National Guard soldiers that were killed in December in Syria. Ohio's had 3 National Guardsmen that were killed in the conflict with Iran. I think there's 2 other National Guard. There's a total of 5 National Guardsmen that have been killed out of the 13 American deaths. And the National Guard, if if there's a war, if there's a real national interest outside the United States, call up the Guard. That's their purpose.
Sure.
They're a reserve component of the military. But this clearly wasn't a overnight threat. It was something they've been building. I think the quote is for 47 years. Right, in 47 years, you shouldn't need the National Guard to go take care of this conflict. I find it interesting that that the National Guard Special Forces units, the 19th and 20th Group, I think is their designations, several states, participated in the global war on terror for 22 years with more deployments than most active duty forces. And so I just wanted to, I've never had this opportunity, but thank you for supporting the Defend the Guard movement way back when you first ran for Congress. It's been huge. I want to kind of wrap a little bit. I've got a couple more questions. Today, Professor Pate, I don't know if you're here for his discussion. He talked about opposing foreign wars and these intervention wars isn't enough, that we have to do something different. We have to replace that support of war with something different. Instead of saying just come home, we should take a more globalist approach and still be the world hegemony and still be the dominant force in the world, but at a higher level. Let the regional players take care of the small skirmishes, and we influence everybody through a larger presence, being that we're the controlling authority, the moral superiority. And if a war has to be fought or conflict has to be done, we would still be the ones that do it, but controlling the straits, controlling the terror groups, controlling the Houthis, would be Saudi Arabia's responsibility, not America's, which is a kind of an interesting concept, except for one problem. It still puts American influence in somebody else's conflict.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you heard those comments and if you felt kind of the same way.
I think we need to get ourselves out of these entanglements and then really just look at, we use our forces for our national interest, but the application of force, I think we need to follow the Constitution and actually have it go through Congress. We definitely have a problem right now where we want an empire, and we're not very good at empire.
Not at all.
And it's costing us our republic.
Interesting. I appreciate that. And I think Dr. Paul kind of has been the epitome of that, right? When he ran for president in 2008, you were probably in your second or third deployment about that time. I had just come home from Afghanistan. He had more support from veterans of the global war on terror, more individual donations, more total dollars than any other candidate combined. Do you think that his message still has a place among veterans today?
Even more so, because ever since then, there's been more wars and more veterans paid. So I don't get a lot of pushback from war on terror vets. You know, I get a lot of support, and I think the more war on terror vets we have step up into some sort of leadership position, especially in the foreign policy realm, I think the better off we'll be, because we can say, like, this is a bad idea. I think had more of us been in the room when these decisions were being made on this last iteration of war, I don't think it would have happened.
You talked about that today, and I heard you talk about it also. I think it was on Tucker Carlson, where you said that the Vietnam generation of veterans, the ones that were still in the room when the global war on terror started, if they would have done the thing that they knew they'd need to do, specifically Colin Powell, who sold the war in Iraq to the world, and him and Condi Rice talking about, you know, the mushroom cloud will be the next deterrent. I think you're right. Your generation, my generation, we're the same. It's our job. It's our job now to step up. And you know, the American Legion was formed after World War I to take care of the next generation, right? The World War II veterans, they did things to put policies in place for the next generation of veterans, and then that kind of died with the Vietnam generation. They kind of stepped back from society and didn't do their job to take care of the next generation. And I appreciate your stance that you said that won't be you. You'll take care of the next generation because it's your kids. It's my kids, my grandkids.
I think the Vietnam veterans, they got spit on so much when they came home. I think a lot of them just kind of like pulled back from that. We were treated really well, really, really well when we came home. I think because of the guilt of that, but I think we should pay that forward. Like, we were treated well. Bad things happened in the war on terror, but it's the debt that we owe to the country and the next generation.
And because of the way Vietnam was treated, you and I now on Veterans Day, we get free fajitas at Applebee's.
Right, exactly.
Right? So let's wrap this up. I got one more question I wanted to ask you. Why are Ron Paul's ideas so rare in Congress and in the bureaucratic state where you came from? Why are his concepts so easy to understand for most Americans and veterans? Why is it so rare in those places of service?
I think the simplest answer is, unfortunately, they don't make anybody other than the American people rich. There's no special interest groups that are going to get rich by saying we don't need more war and we need more people to have independence and liberty over their own personal finances. There's just so many moneyed interests that are making a killing off of sending us to war. Big pharma, the massive industry, the massive regulatory state that goes all around that. I think that's the simplest reason I can think of.
I think
It's just
you're, I
true
think you're
common
right,
sense.
which is why I find it so ironic that Special Forces soldier was just arrested for making a bet on the poly markets, right? But
They
no,
caught that guy real quick,
real
right?
quick,
Yeah,
but they can't catch a
They
politician
got a whole
doing the
task
same
force
thing.
after that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's next? Where's Joe Kent going next?
I'm going to do as much of this as I can. Going to conferences like this, speaking out publicly. I think it's important, especially as we go into 28, that people are educated. I really, in the 2028 primary on the Republican side and the Democrat side, I don't have as many contacts on the left, obviously, but I think this is going to be a key issue in the Republican primary. What's the stance on taking money from AIPAC, from special interest groups, and how do you feel about war, and really being able to articulate it? Because, you know, President Trump, he said one thing and did another, and so did, unfortunately, a lot of the folks that are involved in those decisions right now too. So I think we need to keep these issues front and center. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I would like to build some sort of a coalition. I think this can be a crossover issue as well. There's a lot of momentum, I think, on the Democrat side. If you look at the last vote on Israel aid, most of the Democrats who have any kind of like aspirations for 28, they voted against it, and they're taking some crap too right now from AIPAC for it. But that's the direction that I think the country's heading in, especially with the younger generation speaking out more. So I think we learned a good lesson of like, we know what it sounds like to win. This time we've actually got to go and execute. And so I think helping to build out an apparatus, both politically and then if we ever get a chance at this again, going back into government, to make sure we don't squander it.
And you're not talking about a new third party. We're talking about a coalition, because the two-party system is entrenched. Right?
It is entrenched.
And so starting a third party, a National Libertarian Party, or even an American First Party, it's almost a non-starter at this point. So you're talking about coalition building, a Ro Khanna and a Tom Massey, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Lowen Boebert, you know, those type of things. I got it. I love it. Well, Joe, once again, thank you. It is not hard to stand on principles, right, when you have a foundation. And so when you made that decision, I think you showed an entire generation of Americans what it means to have courage. So
Thanks, man.
thanks,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Thank you.